The turkey was perfect, golden brown, juicy, exactly how Michael had loved it since he was 5. I'd been up since 4 a.m. preparing his favorites, cornbread stuffing with sage, green bean casserole from scratch, and the cranberry sauce that took 3 hours but was worth it for the way his face lit up every year. Except this year, his face was turned towards Sabrina, my ex-husband Thomas's wife, as she regaled the table with stories about her latest pharmaceutical sales conference in Miami. The keynote speaker was absolutely brilliant, Sabrina said, her manicured nails gesturing elegantly. He talked about how success leaves clues and you just have to be smart enough to follow them. I shifted in my chair, still wearing my scrubs from the 12-hour shift I'd worked until 3 a.m. The hospital had been slammed. 2 cardiac arrests, a multi-vehicle accident, and a pediatric emergency that had left us all drained. But I promised Michael I'd make Thanksgiving dinner, so here I was, running on 3 hours of sleep and pure maternal determination. Can everyone go around and say what they're grateful for? Thomas suggested, always the one for forced traditions he'd never participated in when we were married. The table was fuller than usual. Thomas and Sabrina, my parents, Michael and his girlfriend Jessica, my younger son David home from college, and Thomas's mother who still sent me birthday cards despite the divorce. I'll start, David said, grinning at me. I'm grateful for Mom, who somehow manages to save lives and still cook a dinner that puts restaurants to shame. I smiled at him, my sweet boy who understood. But my eyes were on Michael, waiting. When his turn came, he cleared his throat importantly. He'd always been theatrical, my Michael. Class president, debate team captain, now in his senior year of pre-med at Johns Hopkins. I'm grateful for a lot this year, he began, his voice carrying that polish he developed since starting college. But especially, I'm grateful for Sabrina. The table went quiet. Even Thomas looked uncomfortable. She showed me what real success looks like, Michael continued, looking directly at his stepmother. What it means to have ambition beyond just punching a clock. To build something meaningful in the corporate world, not just, he gestured vaguely in my direction, doing shift work. The gravy boat was in my hand before I consciously decided to reach for it. Gravy? I asked pleasantly, passing it to him with steady hands that had inserted IVs into collapsed veins, performed CPR on coding patients, held the hands of the dying. Thanks, he said absently, still focused on Sabrina. I mean, watching you navigate the business world, the way you network, the conferences, the strategic thinking, that's the kind of success I want. That's what's going to matter when I'm applying to residencies. Not just another vague gesture toward me, basic medical stuff. Basic medical stuff. My mother's sharp intake of breath was audible. David's fork clattered against his plate. But I kept my face neutral, the same expression I wore when delivering bad news to families, when dealing with difficult doctors, when pretending my heart wasn't breaking. That's wonderful, dear, Sabrina preened, shooting me a triumphant look. Success is about vision, about building a brand. I'm so glad I could show you that there's more to medicine than just bedside manner. Exactly, Michael beamed at her. Like you always say, it's not enough to just do the job. You have to excel, innovate, lead. That's why I'm so grateful you introduced me to Dr. Harrison at the conference. That connection is going to be huge for my residency applications. I buttered my roll methodically, thinking about Dr. Harrison, chief of cardiology at Presbyterian, brilliant surgeon. Also the man whose daughter I'd nursed through a near-fatal asthma attack 5 years ago, spending my break holding her hand because she was terrified and alone. He'd never forgotten. The dinner continued, but I tasted nothing. Michael spent the rest of the meal discussing his 5-year plan with Sabrina, how he'd leverage connections to get into a top residency, how he'd build his brand as a surgeon. Not once did he mention patients. Not once did he talk about healing. When everyone was finishing dessert, store-bought pies Sabrina had picked up, because who has time to bake from scratch? I excused myself to the kitchen. David followed. Mom, he said quietly. That was bullshit. Complete bullshit. Language, I said automatically, loading the dishwasher. You know how many connections you've made for him at the hospital? How many doctors you've introduced him to? How many times you've... David. I turned to face him. Let it go. But Mom, your brother has made his position clear. Sabrina taught him about success. I just do basic medical stuff. Shift work. Clock punching. David hugged me then, fierce and protective. He's an idiot. You're worth 10 of her. But I wasn't angry. Not really. I was tired. 26 years of raising Michael, of sacrificing, of working extra shifts to pay for his pre-med courses, his NCAT prep, his application fees. 26 years reduced to basic medical stuff. After everyone left, I sat in my living room with a cup of tea, still in my scrubs. My phone showed 3 texts from Michael, all asking about whether I could get him observation hours with Dr. Patricia Nguyen, the head of trauma surgery. I didn't respond. Monday morning came with its usual chaos. I was charge nurse in the ER, managing a full board and a skeleton crew. But between patients, I made some calls. First to Dr. Nguyen. Patricia, it's Linda. About those observation hours we discussed for Michael. Oh, Linda. Yes, I have them scheduled starting next month. How is he doing? Actually, that's why I'm calling. I think there's been a misunderstanding. I won't be able to facilitate those hours after all. A pause. Is everything all right? Everything's fine. I just realized I've been overstepping. His stepmother is handling his career development now. I should have mentioned that earlier. His stepmother? Sabrina from pharmaceutical sales. Patricia's voice cooled. She called me last month trying to network. Spent 20 minutes talking about synergy and leveraging opportunities. I had to fake an emergency to get off the phone. Well, she's shown him what success looks like, apparently. I just do shift work. Patricia was quiet for a moment. I see. Well, if that's the case, I'll cancel those observation hours. My schedule is quite full anyway. One by one, I made similar calls. To James in orthopedics, who'd agreed to let Michael shadow him. To Maria in pediatrics, who'd offered to write a recommendation letter. To Robert in neurology, who'd been saving a research assistant position for Michael. Each conversation was similar. Each doctor remembered why they'd agreed to help. Because of our relationship, because of times I'd gone above and beyond for their patients, because they trusted my judgment about my son's potential. And each one understood immediately when I explained the situation. Basic medical stuff. James had actually laughed. Does he know you're the one who caught his appendicitis before it ruptured? When 3 doctors missed it because you remembered he always minimizes pain on his left side. By Wednesday, my phone was exploding. Michael, panicked. Mom, Dr. Nguyen's office says my observation hours were canceled. What's going on? Then, Dr. Martinez says he doesn't have any research positions available anymore. But he told me last month he was saving one for me. Then, Mom, please call me back. None of the doctors are returning my calls. My recommendation letters for residency are due in 2 months. Thomas called that evening. Linda, what did you do? I stepped back. I said simply, adjusting my stethoscope as I prepared for rounds. Michael made it clear that Sabrina's version of success is what he values, so I'm letting her handle his medical career advancement. You know, she doesn't have hospital connections. Then maybe he should have thought about that before dismissing 26 years of basic medical stuff. He's going to lose his residency opportunities. No, he's going to have to earn them. Without his mother's connections, like he apparently wants to. This is vindictive. This is consequences. I was page overhead. Trauma coming in. I have to go. There's basic medical stuff to do. The next few days were a cascade of revelations for Michael. His volunteer coordinator at the hospital called to inform him that his hours couldn't be verified without my confirmation. I'd been his supervisor for his emergency department volunteering. The research paper he co-authored with Dr. Kim was being reviewed, and she needed my input as the senior nurse who facilitated the data collection. His application for the competitive summer externship at Mayo Clinic was missing a crucial reference, mine. By Saturday, he showed up at the hospital. I was in the break room, finally getting 5 minutes to eat something after a brutal morning. Mom, he looked haggard, stressed in a way I hadn't seen since his NCAT prep. We need to talk. I have 7 minutes left on my break. He sat down across from me, his usual confidence shaken. Everything's falling apart. Every connection I thought I had at the hospital is gone. Doctors who promised to help me won't return my calls. My volunteer hours are in question. I'm going to miss residency application deadlines. Have you talked to Sabrina? I'm sure her pharmaceutical connections could help. His face flushed. This isn't funny. I'm not joking. You said she showed you what success looks like. So let her show you how to succeed without your mother's basic medical stuff connections. Mom, I'm sorry. Okay? I'm sorry for what I said at Thanksgiving. But you can't destroy my medical career over one stupid comment. I'm not destroying anything. I unwrapped my granola bar. Lunch was a luxury we rarely got in the ER. I'm simply removing myself from your career equation. You made it clear that my type of work, my connections, my world isn't the kind of success you value. So find your own way. I can't, don't you get it? Every door that was open to me was because of you. Dr. Nguyen only agreed to mentor me because you saved her nephew when everyone else wrote him off as drug-seeking. Dr. Martinez offered me the research position because you've been his go-to nurse for 15 years. Even my volunteer hours, I only got premium shifts in the ER because you vouched for me. I took a bite of my granola bar. So those connections from basic medical stuff suddenly matter. Mom, please. My pager went off. Emergency department needed all hands. I stood up. Michael, I love you. I'll always love you. But you're 22 years old. You publicly dismissed my career, my connections, my entire professional life as beneath you. Well, now you get to build your own career without it. This could ruin my future. No, this could teach you that success isn't about pharmaceutical sales conferences and networking events. It's about showing up every day, building real relationships, earning respect through action, not ambition. I paused at the door. Every connection I have in medicine comes from one thing, being good at basic medical stuff. Maybe it's time you learned what that actually means. I left him there and returned to the ER, where 3 traumas were rolling in simultaneously. Real work, life-saving work, basic medical stuff. Over the next 2 weeks, Michael learned hard truths. Without my connections, he was just another pre-med student in a sea of thousands. His stellar grades meant nothing without recommendation letters from doctors who actually knew him. His resume was impressive on paper but empty without verified experience. Sabrina, for all her talk about success and networking, was useless. Her pharmaceutical connections had no weight in hospital settings. She didn't understand the culture, the hierarchy, the unspoken rules of medical mentorship. One doctor told Michael bluntly that Sabrina had called trying to leverage synergies, and he'd blocked her number. David kept me updated, torn between loyalty to his brother and frustration at Michael's choices. He's writing apology letters to all the doctors, he told me one evening, trying to explain that he values their work and didn't mean to disrespect the profession. How's that going? Dr. Nguyen told him that respect is earned through actions, not letters. Dr. Martinez said he'll consider him for next year's research position if he can demonstrate genuine commitment to patient care, not just resume building. It was Thomas who finally called with the real conversation. He's devastated, Linda. This is his dream. Medicine was his dream, or was success his dream? A long pause. What do you want me to say? That I screwed up by marrying someone who made him feel like your career wasn't enough? That I let him absorb the wrong values? I don't want you to say anything. I want Michael to understand that every doctor he's trying to impress started where I am. Every surgeon he admires worked alongside nurses, respected nurses, built their careers on the foundation of basic medical care. If he can't respect that, he shouldn't be a doctor. So what does he do now? He starts over. Volunteers without the premium shifts. Shadows doctors who don't know me. Builds his own relationships based on his own merit. Learns what actual success in medicine looks like, not from pharmaceutical sales conferences, but from the ground up. 3 months later, Michael was working as a medical scribe in a clinic across town. No connections, just a grueling job that paid minimum wage and required him to actually understand the daily practice of medicine. He was also volunteering at a free clinic on weekends, the unglamorous kind where you clean bedpans and take vitals for hours. He called me after his first week. Mom, I helped deliver a baby today. Well, I just held supplies, but the mother was homeless. No prenatal care. The doctor, she was incredible. She just handled everything, so calm, so competent. And the nurses, his voice caught. They were amazing. They treated her like she was in the finest hospital, not a free clinic. That's medicine, Michael. The real kind. I know. I'm starting to know. A pause. The lead nurse there, Helen, she said she knew you, said you trained her 15 years ago. Helen Vasquez? Yes, I precepted her when she was new. Good nurse. She said you were the best nurse she ever worked with. Said you could diagnose faster than most residents, that doctors requested you for their difficult cases. That's kind of her to say. Mom, I'm sorry. Not just sorry because I need your help. Sorry because I disrespected everything you've built, everything you are. Sabrina shows success at conferences and sales meetings. You show success every time you save a life, every time you train a new nurse, every time a doctor trusts your judgment over their own. What are you asking me, Michael? Nothing. I mean, I'm not asking for your connections back. I need to earn my own way. But maybe you could teach me what real medicine looks like, what being basic medical stuff really means. I thought about it, my boy, humbled but learning. You know I work Sunday nights. If you want to volunteer the ER, really volunteer, not resume build, I could put in a word. You'd start at the bottom. Cleaning rooms, stocking supplies, maybe eventually helping with basic patient comfort. I'd like that. I'd really like that. 6 months later, I watched Michael hold a patient's hand while I started an IV. The patient was scared, combative, but Michael talked quietly about baseball until the man calmed down enough for me to find a vein. Good job, Dr. Martinez said, passing by. Both of you. After the patient was settled, Michael found me at the nurse's station. That was incredible. The way you found that vein when his blood pressure was so low. How did you know to go for the foot? Experience, 26 years of basic medical stuff. He grinned, and for the first time in a year, it reached his eyes. Best education I could ask for. Sabrina still comes to family dinners, still talks about pharmaceutical sales like it's curing cancer. But Michael doesn't hang on her words anymore. Instead, he asks me about differential diagnosis, about patient care, about the art of medicine that can't be taught in conferences or networking events. His residency applications are due next year. He'll have fewer prestigious names on his recommendations, fewer fancy research positions, but he'll have something better, genuine experience, real mentorship from doctors who respect him for his work ethic, not his connections. And most importantly, he'll have learned that success in medicine isn't about who you know at conferences. It's about showing up for every shift, every patient, every basic medical stuff moment that actually saves lives. Sometimes the best gift you can give your children is letting them fail, letting them see what their choices really cost. Even when it breaks your heart, even when it risks their dreams. Especially then. Because real success, in medicine or anywhere else, isn't handed to you at pharmaceutical conferences. It's earned in 12-hour shifts, in small moments of compassion, and the basic stuff that actually matters. And that's a lesson worth learning, even if it takes losing everything to understand it.